I have the immense pleasure of talking to one of the ladies who's going to become a legend in the Indian society. Her name is Kalki Subramaniam. She's the first transgender activist. She's an author, she's an actress, she's an artist, she's multi-talented. Kalki ji, welcome to TV Asia, and it's such an honor and pleasure to be talking to
Thank
you.
you very much. It's an honor and pleasure to be here and speaking with you and to the listeners of your television.
So tell me, Kalkiji, let's go back in time. I know being a transgender yourself, tell us something about your childhood. You would have faced so many obstacles. Give us a little bit of what all you went through and how you overcame that.
Well, like a lot of, like many of the current children, like in our contemporary times, the kind of discrimination that they go through because of their, because of their characteristics or because of their gender identity. I have gone 10 times. I mean, I've experienced it 10 times. I must have experienced it 10 times in my childhood. At a time when nobody speaks about transgender rights, nobody really cares about transgender health, transgender people's life. That was my childhood. And I had very difficult times being born in one gender and then living the life, trying to live the life of the another was one of the most difficult things to do in life. And that was not a choice, that is what nature gave me, and I cherish it. I love, uh, I love myself. There is nothing to be ashamed about my gender identity. But if people are bothered, it is their problem actually, and that problem was put on me as a child. I was, um I had been gone through severe discrimination in the form of bullying, teasing, sometimes violence at school, and also in college. When I studied college, I've gone through all of it. At school, it was bullying, but when I came to college, it was even sexual violence. I had to endure it all because I think that strength basically came from the love and acceptance by my family. If it has not been there, I don't think I would be sitting here talking to you all. I think that's what is important in spite of a child being gender non-conforming, gay, lesbian, or differently abled or HIV positive. It's so important for the child's parents and siblings and the family to accept that child. That way, um, the differences don't make any obstacle at all. Our gender identity or sexual orientation or color or caste or nothing makes a difference. But it is our parents who need to accept it. And if our parents give us the strength, then our life changes for good. I think I was blessed to be loved and accepted by my parents, which not every Indian transgender or gender non-binary child can have. My childhood was one of the things not so happy childhood, like many other transgender children in India. But I could endure all that and I could wash away the black memories and live a new life. And I wish our parents, everywhere around the world, it's important that children be given their own space and be accepted as they are.
That's wonderful, and they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, so I'm sure your parents are absolutely exceptional people because they have you as an exceptional daughter. So a lot of people, you've gone through a struggle, but then you still kind of came out and then decided to become a voice. What motivated you to start your own non-profit and become a voice for the transgenders in India?
Anger, a lot of anger. That anger comes from my childhood of looking at my own life as a mirror and looking around at what happens to my friends who are non-binary and looking at lives of people like me, how they are treated in the society, what is their crime, what injustice they have done to the society. Nothing at all. We are just living our lives, and just because we are who we are, we are being discriminated. And that was, I've lost my friends in HIV. I've lost my friends in suicides, depression. Some of them I've lost even in murder. So that is not something to be taken lightly. And I could, as a human being, I could never accept it and just move on with my life. I had that anger, and that anger brought a voice in me, and my life is actually based on that anger, and that will always stay inside.
That is wonderful because you're the voice for so many people that need that voice. Tell our viewers more about the nonprofit and what all work does it do.
Sahodri Foundation is an organization that was founded in 2008 by me. It's a small organization, a community-based, a transgender, non-binary, people-based organization. Since many of the transgender people in India have been rejected by their families, we counsel parents as well as transgender, gender non-binary, gender non-conforming youth on counseling on their self-acceptance and counseling their parents on different things like accepting their child as they are and giving them the hope and the courage to just move on with their lives and not rejecting their children. Besides that, we work with the community on holistic approaches with art, with poetry, with literature, with filmmaking, and also since livelihood as well as education is one of the most big challenges that transgender community faces today, we try to create projects and facilitate the transgenders to get better employment and better educational opportunities. And ours is not a funded organization. It's a small organization that has been supported by my friends and family and myself. So, but we have done some of the major wonderful work that we do. Our organization's website address is www.sahodari, sahodari.org, sahodari.org. Sahodari means sister.
I'm here with the very charismatic superstar R. Madhavan. Welcome to Boston, sir, and welcome to TV Asia.
Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you.
And how is your stay here right now?
It's been warm in the hotel, but outside it's been pretty freezing and cold and wet.
But cold, you know cold. You've been in Canada before, you studied there, you were mentioning that.
That is right. Yeah, so I'm not new to it, but a cold is a cold.
All right, so I have to take you down memory lane, and my first memory of you is, I think, 22 years back on television when you were a runner-up at the Gwalior Man of the Year. And that's when I think the entire India witnessed you for the first time. Take us back there.
So that was my first brush with glamour. It was the Gwalior Man of the Year, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I did it because I was teaching in Bombay and I needed quick legal money to set up my office, and they said the prize money for winning that competition was 1 lakh at that time. So I was very enthusiastic about getting that 1 lakh, but unfortunately I didn't get selected. But it was a great experience. My first brush with glamour and with the models at that time. My distinct memory of that time is watching Milind Soman walking down the ramp, and I thought he was, a Greek god. He would look like an Adonis, and I realized the amount of hard work that these people put in to be seen the way they are. It was a wonderful experience, but I'm really flattered that you still remember something like that.
I've been following you since then.
Wow.
So was television a very natural move after that when you first moved?
It was actually a surprising move. I never saw myself as an actor. I never prepared for it. I never studied it. And when it happened, it was just a stroke of luck. And when it happened again and again and again, I started taking it up seriously, wondering whether this could be a event that would last longer than I expected. But I didn't expect it to be a career. But I was just lucky. I just kept moving from one place to the other. And what do you know, next time in the Harvard business school and Kennedy School talking about my career.
And then obviously television led to movies. So tell us how the journey in the movie industry has been. You've been part of Bollywood. You've been very, very integral part of the Southern India. And you've seen the transformation that the entire movie industry has gone through. The genres that we were shy about and to now. How's the journey been?
Oh, humbling and very, very spectacular. See, the thing is, I can't chart out this journey even if I wanted to for my son. I was very, very blessed. I was very lucky to be seen by the right people and offered the right roles at the right time. A stark example would be Three Idiots. There is no reason why I should have done it, being somebody from south of India. But Raju Irani chose me, and it turned out to be an epic film. So somehow I have been very blessed to get this uncanny coincidences where I get to do some spectacular films. But the journey has been also very educational. I realized the audiences have changed vastly from the day that I did my first film. They're far more aware. They are the smartphone generation. They're extremely, educated and, let me just say, conscious of the things happening around them. So you can't actually, if I say, bullshit them. And you need to be aspirational to be on screen in front of them. You can't take your look or your attitude or your knowledge for granted. And if you're not aspirational, they will reject you as a film actor or a film star. And I think there are many such things that I've understood. I can talk about it for hours, but we better stick to a few points.
Sure. And obviously now an Indian actor has now become like a global actor. You did Inferno.
Yeah.
And I think at that point of time there were barely any Indian actors going into Hollywood. Do you have any such plans of now pursuing that more?
Yes. See, there's always a desire to reach a larger section of the audience. There's always a desire to make stories and entice people the world over. Even though a film like Three Idiots get dubbed in many languages and you get recognized in China as much as you do in Malaysia or in India, the desire to do another character which is straight out of India or the language that I'm very comfortable with, which is English, is definitely there. But I'm in a very precarious position right now. I do the kind of films in India that is the alpha male as the main lead on the sets and everything. And I know that when I come to the US, I will have to start at the bottom of the rung. And I have to make that decision. I have to make sure that I have the ability to just chuck everything there, come here, pursue it and see how I do. Right now, I'm enjoying the cushy ride so much over there that I'm not really keen on playing a taxi driver or a nerdy doctor or an IT guy yet. Unless, of course, it's an exciting role and I get paid like the Hollywood actors do.
And you're one of the very rare people at the peak of your career, you took a sabbatical in 2010.
Yes.
And how was that?
It was essential. It was the kind of shot in the arm that every actor should take. I was beginning to become complacent and taking things for granted. Things were working, and you just say you start feeling that you're so good that whatever you do will be eventually accepted. But then I realized that I needed to metamorphosize because I joined the industry much later. My first film was when I was 30 years old, and Unedited and Unabridged. So, or in fact 32. So for me to reinvent myself, to understand the audiences that I was trying to make a story for was very essential because most people who came in with me had already been outdated, had already been forgotten, if I may say so, with no malice. And to survive that, one had to metamorphosize into somebody that made sense to this smartphone generation world, to this vastly, instantly gratifying kind of attitude that people have right now.
Right.
So I had to take that sabbatical. I had to, crush my ego. I had to make sure I knew how and what makes the common man tick again. And I'm glad I did it.
It's wonderful. And is that when the love of golf came into your life?
Oh no, golf was a vice that I already had even before that. I call it a vice because it's so encompassing and I'm addicted to it. In fact, I go back every night, and nights that I'm not able to sleep, I start playing golf in my mind and I sleep very quickly.
Oh my goodness. And
Yeah.
what's the handicap? What's the golf handicap?
The game itself.
No. What's yours?
I play, well, my best has been 7, and I think I'm crushing it at 14 right now.
Oh, that is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
All right, and you went back to television. You did go back and do the game show again, I believe, with Minnie.
Yes. No.
No.
Minnie was my first game
Yeah.
show. I did a show called Big Money and, a Deal or No Deal, this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. How was that experience? Because television is also from when you were to now, it's completely revolutionized and it's as fast-pacing as, the Bollywood industry.
Television is very forgiving. There is no Friday morning reports, and it's good money. So I think when you want to take a little break and you have a project that involves money, for me, it was that. I'm very ashamed of it, but it was that. And now I think there's a completely new demon moving around, and that's called the web series, the internet. And I think that's going to be the next big thing. And I'm already involved in making a series for Amazon called Breathe, which we're shooting in India right now. And I've taken a break to come and speak in Harvard in the middle of that schedule. And I think that's something that we need to start looking forward to.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what are the other projects that you have in the pipeline?
So 4 years of a sabbatical was not just golf, it was also vetting a lot of scripts. And now all the 7 scripts that I had been vetting have been matured and have been commissioned. So now I have 7 films in hand.
Wow.
And so 3 Tamil and 4 Hindi.
And what's the next big release that we're going to see?
I think it'll be a Tamil film. No, I think I'm very sure about it. It's a Tamil film called Vikram Veda.
I have the immense honor of talking to Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Dr. Tharoor, welcome to Harvard and welcome to Boston.
Good to be with you. How are you?
How are you enjoying the snow?
Not at all. In fact, it's a welcome reminder of why I was so happy to leave this country. This awful weather, I genuinely believe that human beings were intended to live where the sun shines, not where all this snow and ice and slush and nonsense comes. I'm not happy. But anyway, fortunately, at Harvard, I'm spending most of my time indoors.
Right. And talking about the Harvard conference, you have a very interesting keynote coming up about India's role in the globalization world. What is your thoughts? If you can give us a little preview.
I don't believe in speaking much about the substance of a speech until I've delivered it. Because until I've delivered it, I'm not even 100% sure what I'm going to say. But it's the fact there is now a backlash against globalization in a number of countries. And we've seen it with Mr. Trump's election, the Brexit vote in Britain, number of trends in Europe. So in this new climate, how does India cope? That's the broad theme of it. But I'm trying to position it with shall we say, a broader set of concerns about the shape of the world today and India's place in it. Let's see if it works, if it hangs together.
And you've been very vocal about your thoughts about the demonetization just took place in India, still kind of recovering from it. So what are your views now?
My views remain very critical. I believe that it was an extremely ill-conceived plan that was badly thought through, extremely poorly implemented. It has been a disaster from start to finish with no appreciable benefit. Over 100 people lost their lives in demonetization-related tragedies. Everything from people collapsing in these 8-9 hour queues to murders and suicides over invalid currency. It was thoughtless, cruel, and if it was meant to prevent black money, where is the black money? All the black money holders appear to have laundered their money by shoving it through the back door into banks, and all the money that was out has been returned. So who has benefited? What has happened? And what is going to be done to prevent future black money generation? Because inevitably, all the ways in which this money was generated, fake purchase orders and bills and under-invoicing and over-invoicing, all of that, there's nothing in the government's actions to prevent it. So in fact, it'll be easier for the black money people now because a 2,000 rupee note will take up less space in their briefcases than the 1,000 rupee notes did. I think it really has been an example of arbitrary misrule at its worst.
Well, let's hope India recovers from it, and let's go on to some lighter topic and talk about you as an author. Obviously, your book, The Great Indian Novel, 20 years nearly going. It still is one of the
27 years.
27 years. I stand corrected. 27 years,
Yeah.
and it's still one of the best sellers. So, what do you think? How do you think that, you captured that nerve, and it's still so popular in today's date?
Well, I'm pleasantly surprised that a new generation is still discovering it. I think there's something about the timeless appeal of the Mahabharata and of the foundational story of India's freedom struggle, and perhaps because it occurred to me to merge them together, and that too in a satirical form, that tended to go very well. But I've had to move on since then. I've written 15 books after that, and the most recent one, An Era of Darkness, the British Empire in India, has actually done rather well with Indian readers. It's trying to open their eyes to our history before independence, 200 years of British rule, and how the British came and took one of the richest countries in the world and reduced it in 200 years of loot and plunder to one of the poorest countries in the world.
Right, that's wonderful. And what is upcoming next? What's the next big novel that you're writing?
Well, I haven't actually started on anything else yet, When this book is still sort of, I'm going off to launch the UK edition in March. It's a fairly new book, so there's a lot happening. I hope there'll be a US edition before too long. So this book still has life. But my publishers are keen that for the 70th anniversary of India's independence, that I do something else for them. And if time permits, I'll do that. About the Indian people, our nature as a people. I need to think it through properly and try and do something, but I will. And if I can pull that off, then I want to go back to fiction after that.
Okay, that would be absolutely wonderful, celebrating India's 70 years independence. And Dr. Zoor, you are one of those politicians that kind of were the first to use social media to reach out to the youth. You are, often Prime Minister Modi, you're the most popular and most followed politician.
He overtook me in 2013 and is shot way ahead.
He did. So how about a final word for our youth out there, and what word of advice would you give them?
Well, I think the Indian American youth, you mean,
Yes.
right? I mean, they are really poised in a very interesting cusp. They've got, on the one hand, all the advantages of their Indian heritage, which to my mind are actually extremely precious and special, and they should never forget them and never shake them off. But they also have all the advantages of being in this amazing, creative, technologically advanced and prosperous economy here in the US. If they can straddle both worlds, the future is theirs. I mean, the current phase the US is going through reflects perhaps something else, but I would say that potentially the US has so much to offer the world, and people who, because of their own background, have the world already in their bloodstream should be able, it seems to me, to be particularly successful in this 21st century. So I hope that Indian American youth will work hard, and through what they do, will actually benefit both countries as well as the world as a whole.
I'm here with the extremely charming and good-looking Vivek Oberoi. Vivek, welcome to Boston.
Thank you, Jarna. You're very kind.
First time in Harvard.
Right, first time in Harvard. And I've always wanted to be here as a student. But it's exciting to be here as a guest speaker. And I think this is just the beginning. I can totally see myself coming and living in Boston on this campus and doing like an executive MBA or something. It'd be fun.
That's wonderful. How are you enjoying the snow?
It's cold. I've just come in from sunny Florida. So I didn't expect it to be so freezing cold, even though my friends told me. So I'm missing an overcoat. But it's all the warmth and love that's working.
That's wonderful. And let's talk about your panel discussions that we're going to see. It's about the evolution of media and entertainment.
That's right.
What are your thoughts about it?
Well, I think it's a really interesting time for Indian media, and I think that there are different verticals when you divide this in terms of the evolution. One is, how do you create a supply chain? How do you consume this media? And ever since the advent of digital distribution of media, and people consuming it on their mobile phones rather than in a theater or on television on a structured channel, things have really exponentially changed. And I think we can see that growing extremely fast. The other thing I feel is that India is now going to be creating content for international consumption. So it's not just limited to desis. You don't just send your content to the US to cater to 5.2 million desis. You're looking at everybody watching this across the board and across the spectrum, and it may not necessarily be a Bollywood song and dance kind of routine. It could be a very powerful content like how you have Narcos on Netflix. So you could have an Indian story coming across like that.
That's wonderful. And Vivek, you're one of the actors that just hasn't stuck to Bollywood. You've kind of ventured into philanthropy. You do a lot of work. So first tell our viewers about the philanthropy work that you're doing.
Well, we do a lot of work. We have a foundation called One Foundation. In fact, last night I was here in Tampa along with our partners, Children Across Borders. I'm their global ambassador. And we raised almost $1 million last night. And this goes towards the education of rescued girls, underprivileged girls who are being rescued from child prostitution, from slave labor, from abused backgrounds, and being given free food, free education, free healthcare, which gives them a platform that they really appreciate, and then they make something out of their lives. We started about 8 years ago in Vrindavan, in Krishna Bhumi, Mathura. And we had just a few kids, and now we've got almost 2,000 kids that are benefiting from this kind of a program, and we've got people from all over the world. Like yesterday, 75% of our donors were non-Desi people. They were white people who probably don't know Bollywood and don't know Bollywood specifically, and they wanted to be a part of this. So I think it's a small world. Everybody can connect with human emotion.
That is so wonderful. And also, you've kind of ventured and you've become an entrepreneur and you do a lot of work in infrastructure. Tell us more about it.
Well, I always wanted to be a social entrepreneur, impact investing. So our company, Karm Infrastructure, has become a very big name now in terms of affordable housing, quality affordable housing for people who want to migrate and move out of almost ghetto living. Whether you're talking about the jhoparpattis, you're talking about the slums, you're talking about labor colonies. They're designed like ghettos, and there's no quality to life. And what does a man want? He wants, no matter how hard I work, I want my kids, my family, my wife, my parents, everybody to be happy and healthy. And we designed something which was very, very interesting. We started targeting a price that was affordable. We brought people who couldn't get bank loans and created a credit rating system for them. Then worked with the banks after creating a credit rating for these guys for 12 to 18 months, convinced the banks to lend to them, and created a system where they're paying roughly the same amount as a monthly installment as they were paying as rental. So they're paying rental in a slum, say 5 or 6,000 rupees. That's like $100 a month and lesser. And now they're paying that towards owning their own home. So that has been really transformative. We've transformed the lives of almost 15,000 families. That's like almost 70,000 people. And that's really satisfying. And we're now launching many more such projects. We're launching 100,000 homes, which should change the lives of close to 500,000 people.
I'm here with Mr. Prithvi Reddy from the Aam Aadmi Party. Mr. Reddy, you're here at the Harvard conference. I think we all heard your very, very inspiring talk yesterday. But give our viewers a brief rundown of your journey from here to Aam Aadmi Party.
I think circumstances in life brought me to where I am. Nothing was planned. I certainly, if you asked me 3 years ago whether I would ever become a politician, it was almost an unthinkable thing. But having come this far, I do believe that I'm spending my time in the best possible cause. When I was an engineer, I used to run a family-run manufacturing business. It was some tragedies I had in the family which made me get in touch with the real world. I ran a rural school. I continue to run a rural school, but it gave me great amount of satisfaction running that school. We set up a model school. We wanted to scale it up, but we realized we didn't have the resources to scale. That's when someone told me that you can help a few hundred children through this rural school and skill building program, but if you got into politics, that you could influence or impact the lives of thousands of children in India who really need good education. So that's what convinced me to join politics. And 2 years down the line, if you see the work that the Delhi government is doing in the field of education, I think I've made the right choice.
That is wonderful. And yes, Aam Aadmi Party came with a bang. They had a bit of setbacks, but obviously Delhi happened. And then you're looking forward now to Punjab and Goa. Tell us how the two states are different and what your strategies are there.
Firstly, Delhi is pretty much like a city government. There's almost nothing that, as per the courts, there's almost nothing that the elected government can do. They say that the decisions need to be made by the lieutenant governor. We have grand plans, and we kind of believe that there's so much that can be driven through politics. The central government has not allowed us to execute a lot of our plans, so we are very excited about Punjab and Goa. We are almost certain that we will form government in Punjab, and I think we'll surprise a lot of people in Goa. I'm rooting for Goa for sure because I've spent some time and been involved very closely with the campaign. I think when you have a full state, you'll understand the full potential of alternate politics. And these elections, I think, are going to permanently change the landscape of politics in India.